Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix? Bob here. Hope you're having a good day. Hey guys, today I just wanted to talk a little bit about a pretty new term you probably heard around on social media and such, an NPC. Yeah, it's been getting thrown around a lot, NPC. I just kind of wanted to go a little bit into what that basically is, because I know a lot of people that maybe don't play video games and such don't really understand what that term means. It comes up on my page all the time, that question, so figured I'd do a video about that. So essentially an NPC means it's a non-player character or a non-playable character. Typically in role-playing games and strategy games and such, you have quite a bit of NPCs. Also in shooter games, they're essentially the characters that are programmed to play a role in a game. Like maybe in like a role-playing game, maybe it's they're a shopkeeper or something like that. If you've ever played a game like Skyrim or World of Warcraft, there's a lot of NPC characters that, play specific roles that, you can interact with them to get quests, and sometimes they'll even fight on your side, follow your character around as like a sidekick. However, you are never given the option to control that player. It is just does what it's programmed to do. So that's essentially what an NPC is. That's where that comes from. And the reason why the term NPC has gotten so popular is because, let's face it, there's so many people in our world that kind of just operate on pure programming, and it's as if they can't think for themselves. It's as if they just work on behalf of the system that they're programmed to work for. And it's also, this term's gotten very popular also because more and more people are starting to realize that this reality is some kind of a simulation. And it's honestly not a new theory that this is a simulation we're living in. This has actually been talked about and philosophized about for thousands and thousands of years. Many of the Platonist thinkers in Greece, they imagined that this world was some kind of an illusion also. Think of like Plato's cave, that it's like we're in the cave right now and everything's an illusion that we're watching and we're believing. And to find some kind of understanding of the real world or enlightenment, you've got to leave that cave and get out from the illusion. And of course, the Hindus, the Hindu Vedic texts have talked about this being an illusion for, now the original Sanskrit, it goes back thousands and thousands of years. And they call this Maya, the illusion. Then of course you had the Gnostics and the Nag Hammadi scriptures, those compiled letters and scrolls and such, were a lot of the Gnostic writings. They believed that this was some kind of a simulated reality that was being controlled by the demiurge Yaldabaoth, and they tend to point the finger at Yahweh in the Old Testament as being Yaldabaoth, the demiurge. And basically they said that this is a constructed reality that's ruled over by the demiurge and his minions, the archons. In the Bible you could call them the angels. And that the only way to escape spiritually, this simulated reality, this constructed reality that the Demiurge made, was to find gnosis, to find knowledge of the truth, to search it out, and once you had it, then you would be able to escape this realm. And the Gnostics basically explained it as some kind of like a reincarnation trap also, which is interesting. That's very similar to the Vedic texts also, that we come back over and over, type of reincarnation trap, but based on karmic debt. So this is not a new concept. It's getting a modern makeover, essentially. And it's becoming very apparent to people, especially after the movie The Matrix came out. The Matrix was ahead of its time as far as seeing what was going to happen with AI and robotics, basically being able to essentially take over and overthrow humans. And of course, if you do the research on The Matrix, the movie, you'll understand that the brothers were not the ones who actually came up with The Matrix and wrote it. It was actually a lady that also conceptualized Terminator too. Even though those movies, the Matrix and Terminator, were separate trilogies, they were actually meant to go hand in hand with each other. So that's a bit of a rabbit hole to go down. I believe her name was Sophia Stewart. Look her up on YouTube. There's a couple people claiming to be the true writers of The Matrix, but if you go look at her interviews, it's pretty telling that she was ripped off, for one, and that two, that she's more than likely the one who wrote both the Terminator and The Matrix. So, and it's interesting to note that The Matrix was based on a lot of Gnostic concepts. So that's why you have a lot of Christ consciousness overtones in The Matrix, and religious overtones also, or undertones, I'm sorry. So, but that's because it was based a lot on the Gnostic teachings of this reality, with a modern, computer technologically advanced upgrade to the story. So a little bit of cyberpunk and other stuff in there, but anyways, so I hope that kind of, that basic groundwork is making sense to some of you now. And now I think we can kind of start moving into the direction of, why are some people termed NPCs? Well, I think it's quite obvious to anybody that thinks outside the box, the correlation to the term and to a vast majority of humankind. And let's be understanding of this humanity. I'm not trying to dehumanize anybody here, folks. I'm not saying that literally these people are just computerized, programmed players, okay, for the Matrix, or for this reality we find ourselves in. I'm not saying that. Now, I'm not saying that there's not the possibility that there are some. But I think most people just operate as NPCs because that's the programming that they've been under since they were born. However, they still have the spark of divinity. They still are, children of God, of the source creator. It's just that they are so programmed by society and by government and religion and, their upbringing, that they operate like they can't think for themselves. They they are the ones that are typically the ones that fall for government propaganda. And it's not that they fall for all propaganda. Typically, you got to realize people polarize to the side that, meets their type of programming that they like to fall for. I tend to see most of the programmed individuals tend to be on the far left and the far right, because they've been so polarized and radicalized into only thinking on, mostly from one hemisphere of their brain, or being able to only see things politically from one extreme side of the aisle, or religiously propagandized to see one extreme side of reality, that they tend to be the ones that are in heavy programming, that do operate as NPCs, and that are the perfect types, to be controlled by the system, to be manipulated by con artists, by psychopaths, and hardcore narcissists, which just happen to be what you could call mostly all of your political figures, and most of your CEOs, and most of your Hollywood stars and music stars, and they're all mostly hardcore narcissists, borderline sociopaths, psychopaths. Now, obviously, the ones in media and music are just kind of useful idiots for the most part, because a lot of them go in as regular people, but there's a certain price to pay to make the big money and to be amplified in entertainment. So, but once their egos get blown up over the millions they make and all the fans they have, then they tend to really be useful tools for the system, and they can help mass hypnotize and program other people in society. So, and yes, religion happens to be one of the absolute strongest programs that humans fall under. In fact, they have found that genetic studies that there is what is called the worship gene in human beings. Human beings were genetically modified with this worship gene that makes people susceptible for worshiping someone in power, or someone in influence, or someone they believe will save them. It makes it easy on them because they can set aside their cares and questions, set those aside, and just accept reality for what it is, and just to go along with things, because they don't have to worry, because they're going to be saved eventually. So they don't really need to do much. They just need to go through motions. They need to read some passages out of a book that was written by man and compiled by the powers that be, the Roman Empire. And as long as they follow those verses, and as long as they go to a building called a church or a temple every weekend, or maybe a couple times a week, they believe they'll be saved, and they don't really have to do anything. It's kind of similar to those that fell heavy under the Q psyop. I mean, I still know people personally that are still holding on to the last vestiges of the Q psyop, still believing that there's a group that has total control of all of this that's going on in our world right now, but they're allowing the evil side to run free. Like they're like a wild dog, but on a really long chain right now. And that, don't worry, trust the plan. This is just to wake people up, and everything will be fixed with the right person put in power. Do you not understand this, people? It's the same damn thing. Just trust the plan. No, don't go out and fight for your freedom and for your children's future. And when I'm saying fight, I'm speaking non-physically, obviously, here. I'm talking about going and picketing the places that are harming our children, that are taking away our rights. I'm talking about the concerted voice of millions. I'm talking about organizing and working on all levels of government to get rid of these people. I'm talking about seeing through the lies and starting to stand into our natural law rights and not continuing to just give in to the maritime laws that are satanic, that have been used to get around all of our natural laws, our God-given, creator-given rights, and even around our Constitution, which is basically a straw man right now. Because these lawyers, let's say that these lawyers are all part of an organization and they're doing their job and they're constantly committing lawfare against your Constitution and your natural rights. And they only get away with it because people acquiesce to it and allow it to happen. So when I'm saying to get out there and fight, I'm talking about learning these things and figuring out how to deal with these people. And then, of course, you got on the far left. A lot of those used to be the ones that were anti-war and were, actually cared about their poisons in their food and everything. They were, and I'm kind of maybe just reminiscing of the hippie leftist types. The ones I actually respected because they were anti-war and they were for clean food and they were against pumping your kids with mixtures and other stuff. And I used to actually see a lot of their sides of the coin. But now that side has been also polarized so far now to the point that the government, they used to want to have as little control over their lives as possible. Now they have that boot in their mouth completely. And they acquiesce to full government dominance. And in fact, they ask for it and beg for it now. And they fall for psyop after psyop themselves. They'll sit there and laugh at people on the right for falling for the Q psyop, right? But they ascribe to the climate cult, the climate, that cult about the climate, yeah, that psyop. They fall for that one. Oh, they believe in it 100%. I mean, you can even show them proof that the rare earth minerals that are being mined by a lot of underage workers in Africa and places like that, third world countries, which are mines controlled by the Chinese mostly, you will find that those rare earth metals are way worse on the planet. They destroy, they have to, the way they mine those elements out, it's 10 times worse than drilling for oil or building pipelines underground. Way worse. So their electric batteries and such, highly pollution, they're highly contaminable. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. You get what I'm saying. They're very hazardous to the environment, especially once they're used up. And these are worse, and you still have to charge them through the grid that is still mostly powered by nuclear and oil and coal and gas. So these people are under a strong delusion too. And they're NPCs. They're leftist NPCs. See? You got rightist NPCs and leftist NPCs. But yet they both feel like their cult that they follow, because let's be real, the ones on the left, the atheists, the climate cultists, it's a cult. I mean, these people, they follow a Marxist atheist cult, and they believe in a dehumanizing eugenics program. That's what they believe in. And we'll know that, you know the agencies that I'm talking about, that they back extinguishing life. You understand that? These people back that, people. I mean, when everybody talks about, Baal worship and all these things in the Old Testament, well, folks, a lot of those on the left still actually perform those same rituals. And they pay for it. And they force you to pay for it through your tax dollars. Now, let's be real here. If the government was drastically, completely controlled by the right, as it is by the left right now, and you'd say, well, the right controls, like, Congress and such. Yeah, but let's be real, people. These people are all from the same club. They play the illusion of fighting for the left or right, but they're all liars. They all work for the same demiurge that rules this realm. They just put on a show like WWF about which side of the ring that they fight for. But when all's said and done, after the fight's over, they all go hang out at the bar together. Yeah, or the same clubs, or go to the same parties that are usually have a lot of working women and men, if you get my meaning, and they got a lot of powders and stuff that they like to sniff on and stuff. Oh, that's your good old congressmen and your Senate parties there. Yeah, and you'll see both on the right and left there together. And of course, part of that's to build blackmail on each other and all that, because these people are psychopaths, as I've said before. So let's be real here, folks. I always hammer the left and right, and you know that. And it's because the middle road is the true path. That's what the ancient teachings teach. That's what the Hermetic teachings teach. The mystery schools, the true knowledge, the gnosis that has been passed down for thousands of years. That most of the common folk cannot grasp, because they are easily polarized to one side or the other, and they're programmed. And that's why so many people are called NPCs to this day, because they can't even see that they're an NPC. There's some that are waking up on the right, and yes, they are starting to see some of these paradigms, but yet, once again, like I said, if they were in total power, the right, what you would see, I'm talking true right power, where they actually act on it, not where they just bow down to the left all the time. You would see a religious type system instituted on all of us. And it would be based on this Old Testament demiurge, because they still worship this entity to this day. The jealous God, the one that says he is the only one, there's no other gods but him, and he's a furious God, and he can create bad and he creates good. Yes, that God. Go to this city-state, and we need to conquer it, and every man, woman, and child and animal needs to be massacred. And if you don't do it, I'm going to send you, and I'm going to put a 7-generation sin on your family's name. That's who would be ruling us right now. Let's be real, folks. Right now, we've got a tug of war of polarities. But those on the far right would be very comfortable with instituting a completely Judean doctrine on everybody and force it on everybody to live by their rules and their beliefs. Now, that's why in the past, when the right has had a majority power and a lot of those type things have come up, that's where I've actually stood with the left on certain things. Because, see me, I'm different, folks, and I'm not bragging here. I'm just saying, once you learn to see outside the box, you learn to see outside the box. And you'll realize how they try to polarize us, divide us. They understand how energy works in this realm, okay? And they understand how to manipulate us as a whole people. Instead of us uniting and understand that we're being manipulated and actually be able to stand against them as one. Maybe even if we don't agree with each other on, our religious views or on our personal social views, how to run the nation. We all may have different ideas on that, right? But ultimately, we're being preyed upon by these demonic forces, and it doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, or the few of us that walk the middle road, the narrow path, right? We all are preyed upon by these people, and we all need to wake up, people, and you need to start realizing that if you're polarized to the far right or the far left, you are an NPC. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. If you believed you're going to be saved by just because you go sit in a church pew and you give money to the pastor every Sunday, if you believe you're going to be saved because you've been a good little climate person, and you've keep that government boot in your mouth all the time, and you're a good little servant, you're not going to be saved, people. This is just the truth. We're here to save ourselves. We are the Christ. Don't you get it? We are Neo. That's the whole point of this realm. It's for you to wake up and realize that you are a spark of divinity, that you have power over the quantum field, which is the energetic matrix that is essentially the computer system that runs this realm. And it's a game, folks. That's why the Masons always have the black and white tile floor all the time on their paintings and their pictures and everything, because they recognize that this is like a game board, and the black and white is obviously the negative and positive. And of course they are taught that you're supposed to balance out your good and bad karma, and because they understand that there is this middle road. However, they also can play extreme to the right and left, and then they believe that, as long as they kind of balance it out, they're okay. When I'm talking about the middle road, folks, I'm not talking about that as much. I'm talking about not being polarized to the right or the left and only falling in one camp. And there's always gray, folks, and honestly, living in the gray, I think that's the most important place to be, because you can see truth and lies in both the total black and the total light, right? And of course, in the Bible, it's interesting that it actually speaks against this. It actually says that that's sitting on the fence, essentially, and being lukewarm, that you're not hot or cold. But don't you understand why that would be in the book, folks? Think about this. Remember the programming I was talking about? Of course they would teach you that you shouldn't stay on the post, on the fence. That of course they would want you to polarize, to be a part of their religion, right? Because to them it's easier when they can just explain it in good and bad, and that there is no middle ground, that it's always about polarizing, being a zealot for one end or the other end of the spectrum. When the reality is, the only way that humanity can work together and unite is to find common ground in that gray area, folks. And I'm not talking about giving up your moral beliefs or anything like that. I'm not talking about that, folks. I'm just talking about in your way of thinking, that you got to understand that sometimes there's ideas on the left that are good and that you're overlooking because you're so polarized to the right, and some of you on the left are so polarized to the left that you don't see good that comes from the right. And that's the point I'm trying to make. So if you want to know the absolute truth, if you're polarized to the far right or the far left, and you can find no common ground, you can't even put your foot on the middle road, then you're an NPC. And I'm just telling you the truth, because you are so programmed that you cannot see outside your box that you're in right now. Think of the black cube, folks. There's a lot that goes into the black cube. The cult of Saturn, and you'll find when you go down that rabbit hole, look it up, you'll find that your holy symbols, they're all symbolic of the black cube. and that there's a reason why this black cube is so important, folks. It's a representation of this realm that the demiurge created, and some believe that Saturn is the holographic programmer, or like some kind of device that empowers the system, and that's why there's such a this long cult that goes back a long, long ways into the past. You know, they've always been fascinated with Saturn, and so, anyways, hey guys, we'll go into the Saturn cult at some other time, but I left you a couple rabbit holes to dig down, and I hopefully now you understand what an NPC is. So when your friends or family ask what that is, or somebody calls you that, you'll know what they're saying. So, hey, I appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you later.